Hello and welcome to the Change Gang podcast with me, your host, Laura Ordile. I'm here to help you hold on to your sanity and your soul as you move through big change in your life. I'm here to guide you, inform you, and hopefully help you to triumph over trauma and the long list of symptoms that come along with it. This podcast series is to bring knowledge, share stories, and open up conversation around hope for those of you that suffer with the difficulties that present themselves in your life, from diagnosed or undiagnosed trauma. Labeled or not, I know you need help, and so do those that have graciously taken the time to have these conversations with me. So let's get to it.
Welcome to the week, Change Gang. We're continuing this series on trauma, PTSD, all the fun stuff. And I have Heron here with me this morning to chat, and I greatly appreciate you being here today, Derek. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it too. So we're going to dive right in and just chat about some of the work. We obviously met in a study of a protocol that we've been working on with that particular area. And so what made you decide to work with people with PTSD or trauma, or have you always kind of done that part in your work?
Trauma is the core to so many different issues. You know, it presents itself in so many different ways. And when you dive in and explore the client and where they're coming from, so often it's trauma. It stems from a traumatic experience, whether this is, you know, a phobia or an issue they have, or, you know, a sexual problem they might be experiencing. We take it back to, you know, the initial sensitizing event, and it's trauma. They've experienced a trauma. So I think that, you know, having explored that so often, when the course came up that we've both done, it was a kind of no-brainer, looking at PTSD and how it manifests itself in people and how it presents and the myriad of different ways that it presents, and being able to deal with all of these ways using the same kind of protocol. It made sense to do it and explore it more.
What you said is absolutely true. I agree with you. The thing is that most people, I think, don't realize that some of the things that have happened to them would be considered trauma.
Yeah.
So how do you help people who will come to you and say, I don't have trauma, but, you know, I have this going on. Yeah. Or you talk to them and they're like, yeah, but you're a trauma person.
That's right. We've got to break this down into our conscious and our subconscious. And of course, consciously, we experience things all the time. And then sometimes, you know, we can experience events and we just brush them off, pick ourselves up, and we go on with life. But that's our conscious side of things. That's our conscious approach. That's fine. I'm okay. You know, dusting myself down. Let's get on with life. But we've got to remember that subconsciously, and I know you've discussed this before in other podcasts, when we experience an event, and if our subconscious deems that event traumatic, something they don't wish to re-experience, then our subconscious creates a part. It creates a new part to deal with that event, to avoid that event ever happening again, right? It's the subconscious role is to protect us, to protect the person, to protect the being, protect who we are. And so the subconscious will create a part to protect us, and that part will decide in its best interest and with good intention, decide the best way to protect us. And that might be avoidance, or, you know, and create perhaps a phobia, you know, to avoid spiders ever again because they don't want to experience whatever it was they experienced. And so we may consciously not think we've experienced trauma, or we may have even forgotten the trauma that happened because we didn't consider it. We didn't think it had any real lasting effect on us. But deep down in our subconscious, it's created a part to protect us from experiencing that again. And it's through discussion with your client talk to your client, when did you last experience this? Where were you? What were you doing? What happened? And they might not have any recollection. It's only when you drill deeper that things come back to them. Oh, well, yeah, that happened, but that was nothing. Well, maybe it was, maybe it was something.
Well, and isn't that's kind of the subconscious doing its job, is protecting us. And
absolutely.
Even though it's almost like a little glitch in the matrix there, where it causes eventually a problem for us because it gets, buried inside of us, it does do its job in that moment.
Does.
And so it's trying to do what's best for us always. And so sometimes people get upset that, gosh, I can't move into the change I want to. I can't get rid of this thing. I can't do whatever I want to do. And in the back, what's going on in the subconscious, it's like, I'm doing a really good job. I'm keeping it safe. Yeah. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I often tell people, that you're going to have the quickest, easiest, most complete change in your life when you go to the subconscious first. Do you find that too with people?
Yeah, I'm also a CBT practitioner. And one of the, and CBT can be a really, really long journey, because it's a conscious approach to reach the subconscious mind. And so you're having to take a lot of sessions for whatever you converse on a conscious level, for that to really filter down to a subconscious level as well. Whereas, as with hypnotherapy, we bypass the conscious and hit the subconscious straight away. And that's why the results are so quick and so dramatic in their change. Because we've got that ability to negotiate with the subconscious, to reason with it. Yes, it's got this behavior and it's going to stick rigidly to this behavior because that's what it knows to do.
Right.
But if we can simply approach it and reason with it, and we, as hypnotherapists, we're familiar with parts negotiation, reaching out to the part that's running that specific behavior and saying, hey, you're doing a great job. But, and then, let it see reason, negotiate a new behavior. And that's why we get such rapid results.
Well, yeah, because the behavior that was at the time worked, did what it needed to do. However, we're different people now. We're having different lives. We're functioning differently. We need a different set of programming, a different set of rules to kind of go by. And so updating that, there's something wrong with that. It's like updating the software on your computer or your phone or anything else.
Exactly.
To allow it to function even better. Yeah. So how long have you been doing this? Working with the mind, Eric?
Well, there's 2 chapters in my life regarding hypnotherapy. So way back, I'm 58 now. But way back in my early 20s, I worked briefly with a hypnotherapist. He lived down the street and we got talking and he decided to train me, to teach me, to mentor me. And because he saw a genuine interest that I had. And so I did hypnotherapy for a good few years, but it was very old school. It was very much, we're talking 30 odd years ago now, right? And it was very progressive induction followed by direct suggestion followed by wake up and you're good to go. Okay. That was the formula. And yes, it was effective, but it didn't always work. People are complicated things, right? And minds are complex. And so direct suggestion, yes, it can perhaps have an immediate effect, but is it a lasting effect? Not always. Okay. And then life got in the way and I no longer did the hypnotherapy. And then 30 years later or so, COVID hit, and in 2019, I had a lot of time on my hands and I thought, okay, hey, let's relearn all this hypnotherapy stuff again. Let's re-explore it. Let's see what's happened. Let's explore the innovations that have been made in hypnotherapy. And by golly, in the last 10 years, the innovations in hypnotherapy have been incredible. And so I re-educated myself, did 2 diplomas in hypnotherapy, got a few different certifications, and here I am. So I started up the business again in 2019, and I've been there ever since, and it's wonderful. And it's exciting, and there's so much new things to learn, and we're always learning. As hypnotherapists, we never stop learning.
I hope not. Because like you said, it does change. And there are things that people find as they're exploring and moving along and doing that this works great here and this works great here and this works really good here. And I think there's no one good way to do it anymore. It's very much, nuanced in the person you're dealing with and the situation you're dealing with. And I know a lot of the work anymore has gotten into getting it done quick, moving in, getting it done quick. We don't have to stay in super long, super deep. However, it's a little bit different with this particular protocol with dealing with trauma and PTSD. It is about going in a little deeper, taking your time, allowing kind of that going down process at a much slower rate than in some of the other things. Do you think that really does make a difference and is helpful?
Yes, absolutely. I'm not a huge fan of rapid change. I mean, yes, it's great when we get it, but I'm never keen on, super fast inductions and then, a super quick script that lasts maybe 2 minutes and then you're done. I'm just not a fan, right? It's not my style. I really like the PTSD protocol that we've been doing. It's slow and steady. It's logical. There are many facets to it. It approaches the same thing, but it approaches it in many different ways. It attacks different aspects of the subconscious part. And I think it covers it all. It does it at a slow and steady pace. We also give the subconscious time to process between each part of the protocol that we do. And I think that's absolutely essential. That's when you see the work happening. The clients will come back after the last session, perhaps a week later, and go, wow, you've no idea what happened. I was doing this and this thought came into my head and I suddenly realized, et cetera, et cetera. And that's great. You're giving the subconscious time to process.
Right.
Which is essential.
I think that's a big difference. That's one of the reasons why it happened almost at the same time I started to move into this direction with the trauma and this work. But I was finding when I was doing things and, everyone says, a lot of times it can just take one session or something. And I was not okay. And I didn't feel like I was getting to the place that I needed to in one session. So I quit doing single sessions. I won't do single sessions unless it's like after I've done, a set of them or something like that. Then we'll pick up and do something. But I found that for the deep change that needs to take place, you might be able to do, and I'm not saying it doesn't work ever with something, yes, you might be able to do this one thing or you might be able to do this, but it's not going to go as deep and clear as many things in the process that if you take your time and you do it's only 5, 6 sessions, 6, 7 sessions sometimes that make a difference in your life in so many different ways. That's what's so amazing to me. It doesn't just go fix the insomnia. It takes care of the insomnia, the IBS, the anxiety, the panic attacks. It takes care of all of that. Exactly. So why wouldn't you spend 6 weeks of your life to clear all of the crap that you've been living with for so long? That's it's like this little miracle that I'm seeing happen with people. It's so cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I mean, trauma, as we said at the start, trauma can present in so many ways. For instance, a phobia. Now, in a large percentage of time, I can probably cure a phobia or resolve a phobia in one session.
Yeah.
And we can do that because, it's very much focused on this one single element that's causing, the trauma was based on something like a spider, a traumatic event with a spider. From then on, you have this fear because you have this part that's protecting you and running this mechanism. And it says, avoid spiders at all costs. We don't want to experience that again. And so, you develop this phobia for spiders. But it's easily resolved. There are a couple of different ways you can resolve it. If you're familiar with the rewind technique or the fast phobia cure, or you can simply take, do a timeline and regress the client, take the client back to the initial sensitizing event as a child, and then allow the adult to view that with an adult understanding, with an adult perspective, with an observed view. And the subconscious gets it, like, wow, okay, I've been silly here, right? This is no longer appropriate. You're all grown up. I see what happened there. The subconscious gets it. The subconscious voluntarily changes its behavior or removes removes the behavior entirely because it gets it. And so, and these things, they are trauma-based, but we can do it in one session. Or maybe 2 sessions, depending. But as you say, with more complex traumas, going slow and steady is absolutely the right way to go. Trauma presents in so many different ways, and sometimes it is multiple, it presents itself in multiple ways, fibromyalgia and panic attacks and depression. These are all symptoms of trauma. And the six or sometimes 7 session protocol that we do, as you say, incredibly deals with all of these things, which I think is just amazing. And people that have suffered from years, especially, war veterans that come back with PTSD and they just get on with it because the psychologists, the psychiatrists don't really know what to do with them anymore. They can give them medication, perhaps depression medication, to keep them in, some level of being a zombie for the rest of their life and not really have any high emotions or low emotions, but just going on, as I said. And that's no way to live, right? You need your life back.
Well, that's just like, putting a little Band-Aid over a gaping wound.
It is.
And there's something down in that wound that needs to be cleared out.
They need surgery. They need surgery.
and you can't clear that. And that's the hard part, I think, for people, is that they often don't understand why they have those panic attacks or why they fly off the handle in anger, and they simply can't control it. I mean, literally. And people who don't understand that, when they're dealing with someone who has PTSD in their life, it's hard to be on the other end of it. It's so hard because you're looking at them, not understanding or not knowing what's going to happen, but they too don't understand and don't know.
Correct.
And so it's all this confusion's going on and all this misunderstanding and all of this, the person who's experiencing the trauma is upset with themselves because they don't understand and they don't know how to make it better. And so then all of this other stuff goes on. Yep. And the person who's living with them is at a loss because they don't understand what's happening.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's enough education out there sometimes around it, as just saying, here's what's going on. Here's how we can help it. There is a way to help. I see so many people who get so frustrated and so upset, and I just want to say, no, really, there's help. There's help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's so incredible. So working with it, I'm just going to ask you, working with this protocol that you're working with now, what kind of success are you having?
Yes, good success. It is varied, I will give you that, but all of it is successful. I had one client actually, what day is this? Is Saturday, Thursday. She had just completed the week before, she had completed the 4th part of the protocol. And she came to me, for her 5th session, and she was so down. She was so down. She had had a really, really tough week. And this isn't, let's be clear here, this isn't some magic wand where you just close your eyes, you listen, you wake up, you go on about your daily business, and you turn up the week later and you do the same. It is a process that you have to go through, and there will be emotion. It will pull up emotions during this process. It will bring back memories during this process. It's not a sit back and let it happen thing. It's a very interactive thing. You've mentioned it's content free, and it is, but the client does go through a lot of emotions and thoughts during this process. And she had had a really bad week. She had thought about people. She had thought about the cause of her trauma. Memories came back. She relived conversations and events that made her feel uncomfortable. And she came to me on the 5th session really not in a good place, really, really unhappy, saying, what have I entered into here? You know, I feel terrible. I can't get X, Y, and Z out of my head. I keep running over this in my mind. And I said, look, it's a journey. You have to trust me on this, that, you know, the journey does have an end. We're 2/3 of the way through. I said, you know, maybe this is the one where we make a change. And as you'll be aware, this was all about, the session that we ran was all about forgiveness, so thankfulness for self. Okay, thankfulness for living it, for coping and surviving it, and just, you know, thankfulness for the younger self for dealing with all that they'd dealt with. And so it was actually quite interesting because it was over Zoom, and 1/3 of the way through the protocol, her screen went completely black. I lost picture. Okay. And of course she's under, and I can't go, oh, excuse me, can you just fix your, you know, fix your phone or whatever she was using. And so I just had to trust that she could still hear me. And so I continued on with the process, and, you know, at the end of it, the induction brought her back into the room. I couldn't see anything, right? I just had to trust that she had been able to hear me, and she came back into the room, and I was listening for some sort of acknowledgement that she was awake again, and she went, hi. I went, you know, oh, good, you're there. You've clearly heard me because you've come back into the room after the count of 5. So I know that obviously that you could hear me throughout the whole of the process, and that your subconscious was listening through the whole process because it's brought you back on the count of 5. And we chatted for a few moments, and I couldn't see her, but I could hear her smile. I could hear her happy. You know, you could hear the joy in her voice. And I said, I can hear you smiling. She said, I am smiling. She said, I wish you could see me. She said, and I just feel amazing. She said, everything's lifted. That is the session I needed. I just feel absolutely fantastic.
Oh,
and yeah, exactly. I was like, oh my goodness, you know, and I wish I could have seen her, but, you know, she said, I wish you could see me now. And I feel so different. And that was it. You know, we got there. Yeah, we'll do the 6th session. We'll tidy things up and run confidence boosting stuff and just give her that lift that she needs to go on now. And this isn't unusual, right? When you run this course, this isn't unusual. You know, I've had varying degrees. I will be absolutely 100% on this. I've had other clients who, they don't have that absolute wow moment that this client did, but you can see them almost on that journey of getting better and better and better. And by the end of it, you know, they've came to you looking grey and sad and old and just so deflated. And by the end of it, there's been no major instant epiphany and instant change, but by the end of it, they're leaving going, you know what, this has been a journey. I feel so much better. I feel so much more positive now, you know. And there's colour in their cheeks, they're sitting upright, their posture's improved over the 6 weeks that we've ran it. They bounce into the session rather than dragging themselves into the session. And so, you know, everyone's different, and everyone responds to this differently, but you can always see the change. Whether it's a gradual thing or an instant one session wonder thing that they've experienced on one particular session. You can always see the change with this.
And I'm glad that you said that. It isn't that I have to know or you have to know the story or everything behind, the trauma or what's going on. However, it can be a roller coaster ride on that journey. And it is about just hanging on to the end. And I've had similar things where someone's like, this week has been hard and I'm, anxious and I'm that. And then, and we do a session and maybe they're coming out crying or they're coming out, and it's like, oh my goodness. And then they go into the week feeling better. And it's just like, okay, that's great. Someone asked me one time, well, am I going to be okay to do this? Or am I, after the session or should I plan? And I said, honestly, I don't know. Everyone handles it differently. Sure. You might come out fine. You might come out exhausted. You might come out in tears. You might come out laughing. I don't know. And it can be different session to session, just like you said, where they come out and go, okay. And then the next one, it's like, oh my goodness, and so it's all different. But thank you for making sure to say that it is a journey. But the best part I think about that is most of the time, it's a very short journey. If you think 6 to 7 weeks in the process of years or even months of having difficulties, it's so short compared to so many other things out there that say, well, this might take years. This might take a long time. We have to go through all of this and work it all out and get to the bottom of it. And I think that's wonderful that we're able to go in and help in such a quick way.
Yeah. It is relatively quick. I mean, as a CBT practitioner, so many people don't make it to the end, with the CBT because cognitive behavioral therapy, for anyone that doesn't know, CBT, it is a long, long journey and people do get disheartened by it because you need little wins to keep you going. You need that impetus to keep you going, to keep coming back when you can see even a tiny little glimmer of progress there. And with CPT, that's a long, long journey. But with the protocol that we're running, it's only 6 sessions. You can see amazing changes within these 6 sessions. And so you're going to go with that journey. It's worth that little 6 sessions, to recover from can be decades of depression or anger or anxiety and panic attacks, You're getting that success pretty rapidly, in relation to how long you've been struggling. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So true. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to wrap this one up, Derek. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Got some more, and I'm excited for another conversation. But for now, I hope that everyone has a great day. Tell us where they can find you, Derek.
Okay, you can find me in 2 different places. You can find me at www.cognitivecure.co.uk because I'm based in Scotland. Or if it's PTSD specific, you've got surviveptsd.com.
Oh, okay.
And all of the sessions are online. And so, I capture all my PTSD clients. It tends to be the surviveptsd.com.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. All right,
My pleasure.
Off into the week we go, and I hope it's a good one. And I look forward to meeting you right here, same time next week. Have a good one.
Okay.
I hope today's episode was interesting and helpful to you in some way. If so, find someone to share it with. Maybe it will help them too. If you'd like to know more about anything discussed here today, you can find all the places to connect with me and the guest speakers in the show notes. Or go to lauraordile.com, LauraOrdile.com, and you can reach out to me there. Until next time, ask when you need help, be kind to yourself, and have a happy day.